Good evening, everybody, and welcome to round one of our high gear championship here in RPM. The first track is Canada on this very difficult street circuit, and I am joined by RPM Jones. How are you doing?
Yeah, good mate. Nice to be here. First one of the season, and try and see what the pecking order is for the season.
Yeah, definitely. It's always interesting, these first races. Of course, we have got a bit of a mixed grid. Of course, at the start of the season, the tiers are always changing, so we've got a few new drivers here.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how things get on. I mean, we've got people who've been promoted as well. So Boris, who won mid-gear, is now up to high gear. And interesting to see if he can hold his own against some seriously quick drivers out there.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got Colin here again, the last high gear champion and arguably the quickest driver in RPM. So I'm quite excited to see what he could do and if anyone can match his pace this season. But the first driver out in here in round one will be Sminotla in the McLaren.
Yeah, and I think he's reserve, isn't he, this season, Sminotla? I think FCT or Brian is usually in this seat at McLaren.
Oh, okay. So let's see what Sminotla can do then. Maybe try and get some points for McLaren.
He'll want the win, won't he? He's just go for wins in every race. There's no focusing on the championship, I guess.
No, definitely. Sminotla is a very fast driver. Again, he's just validated. I'm not sure if that's going to affect his lap, but yeah, he's one of our fastest drivers. So let's see what he could do on in this season as a reserve driver. And yeah, unfortunately, he has just invalidated. And I think the next driver would actually be Colin then. Yep, starting his lap on the medium tyres. So we've got 3 drivers currently on the meds. Let's see what happens. I think Colin usually opts for the medium tyres at the start, but then goes to the soft for the end. It's tapped the wall again, but
yeah. The wall, yeah. It does tighten up a little bit there. If you're not fully focused, it can catch you out. Yeah, I think he tried to do maybe a few laps to get his eye in on the medium, because he always seems to put the softs on anyway. Obviously, if he does a quality lap on a medium, he'll stay on them, I assume. But it's one of those tracks as well. I think it's very important just to try and have the best position you can. It's so tight through those first corners on a race start.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. Yeah, the race starts are always really, really difficult to get right on this track. So it will be difficult. We've got a Jetfish, the first person to complete his lap, and he does a 1:09.1. So that is a benchmark for qualifying on his softs.
That's a very nice banker lap.
Yep, and we've got Sebastian coming in second, 4/10 off, and now we've got Higgsy in the other AlphaTauri finishing his lap, and he sets a 1:09.7. So not too much pace between the two AlphaTauri cars.
Yeah, it's close up at the top. And I expect to see from some of these drivers dipping into the 108s. Be interesting to see how fast Colin can get through here. But the 109s is really good laps for a banker lap anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Especially for a banker lap. I think in mid-gear we saw maybe a 109.1 as the pole lap. So for these guys to be setting it as a banker lap really shows their pace.
Yeah, and it's important to get those laps in. You know, a lot of us that do this, and there's Colin getting into the 108 straight away on the mediums as well. That's incredible.
Yeah, 4 times up. Sminotla goes into P5 with a 109.5.
Yeah, I noticed Brent is also he's put in a 109.7 on the medium, so that's a very good lap. only 1,000th ahead of Higgsy.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely Brent on the mediums as well.
And I think the difference here between the mediums and the softs isn't as big in time as it is at the other tracks. I know when I was looking on the screen it said about 4 tenths, so maybe we can see Colin getting a low 108 here.
Yeah, I think Colin is definitely going to be difficult to beat this season. But as it looks like Dennis Lone in the Denise, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but yeah, has unfortunately invalidated in the Mercedes just as they were finishing their lap.
Yeah, and it's an easy track to invalidate on. A lot of tight corners that you have to go into, very committed, and unfortunately on the other side of them there's usually a wall, so it's not just invalidating the laps or getting penalties, it's also big crashes can happen here.
Yeah, I think the most difficult part of this of just this whole qualifying and race is going to be consistency, because well, as I found out yesterday, you really do have to be consistent if you want to do good in the race.
Yeah, there's not much margin for error as there is at other tracks.
No, definitely not. And once you break your wing and you have to pit, it's very difficult to come back unless it's a safety car.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, and
I'm seeing Bakker on a flying lap. He looks like he's going very well on these mediums.
yeah, and unfortunately I missed that, but Andrew is out of qualifying already. But he set a pretty decent lap, but still, he don't want to be going out this early because the track is going to improve. And as you said, Bakker going through the final few corners. Brent has unfortunately retired, and Bakker goes up into P10 on the mediums with a 109.7, which actually isn't too far off the soft runners. So I think that's a pretty decent lap for the McLaren driver.
I think Brent will be disappointed because clearly on those, he's done a really good lap on the mediums. If he'd got the softs on, he could have had some serious pace.
And Sprunky's out as well. I'll try and have a look there. You can see.
It looks like he's lost it in the Wall of Champions, I think.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. There's so many places where you can have a crash here. There's some chicanes with some tight walls on the outside, and it can be very difficult to keep it out of the walls unless you cut the corners.
Yeah, definitely. It's a street circuit like this, I mean, every single place you look, there's walls about a meter away from you, maybe even less if you're pushing that hard, so it really is difficult to get right. But when you do get it right, it is really rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just watching Boris at the moment, currently on a flying lap, his first one in high gear. It'd be interesting to see where he fits into this. Obviously, he was Mr. Consistent in mid-gear, and see how he fares in high gear.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at the sector time, it is about 6 or 7 tenths off Colin, but we know how fast Colin is, so I'm not even going to compare them right now.
I mean, Colin's half a second up on anyone at the moment. Yeah, and it definitely was Sprunky that lost it near the Wall of Champions, actually on the inside, into the pit wall. I just went past his tyre with Boris.
Yeah, looks like there's a bit of a glitch there as Captain Meisel goes P9. We've got Boris who gets a 111.4. You see,
yeah, we've got Colin coming up to complete his lap on the softs.
No, he's invalidated.
Oh, is he invalidated? Sorry,
yeah.
I didn't see that.
And we've got Banter Brandon. We've got Banter Brandon on mediums going for a 109.7. So not a bad lap. And Jetfish has gone on to the mediums. He's in second place currently. He's fit the mediums. And
interesting choice unless he can absolutely nail the lap on the mediums.
Yeah, well, he's on his lap right now, and he is down on his first sector. Not by that much, by less than a tenth. So let's see if he could gain some time. Of course, I guess being on the mediums might be the better strategy for the race.
Yeah, because I think if you start on the soft, you're almost certainly looking at a two-stop here, unless you can really carry those tyres as far as possible in the first stint.
Yeah, and I think track position is definitely key at a circuit like this. So going for the one stop might be the better way to go. But now we've got Jetfish on his mediums, and he is currently up, so let's see what he could do. And he just misses out on his personal best time by half a tenth and stays in P2. But I guess that's interesting. Interesting information for him, seeing as he's not that far off his soft time or on the mediums, and it's not going to go as P2, and only 0.02 of a second separating the McLaren and the Mercedes drivers.
Yeah, and interestingly, seen Spinotla's just gone. Yeah, he's just gone up into second. Luke, who got promoted from mid-gear last season, is doing very well up in fourth. A tenth ahead of fifth there as well.
Yeah.
See what he can do in the latter laps as this track starts to come to the drivers even more.
Yeah, definitely, and I think he's got some experience in high gear, because he did race in high gear for quite a while. So, and yeah, he's definitely showing his pace up in P4, but just beaten out there by Lucist in the Alpine by a tenth of a second.
And it's starting to get very tight, isn't it?
Yeah, just about to say that. The mid-pack is definitely very tight. We've got Bakar currently in P12 coming towards the end of his lap through this very fast chicane past the Wall of Champions, and crosses the line to go P4 with a 109.1. That's an amazing lap from Mr.
Improved
Dookie.
by 6 tenths there as well. So it's a big moment. I guess he might get in the pits and have one more run at it.
Yeah, there's 5 minutes. This track is pretty short, so if he wanted to, he could do 2 laps, but I don't really see that happening because it will just wear out your tyres.
Yeah, and have we got some more people coming out of the pits here, or on a flyer lap?
Well,
I think people are leaving it as late as possible.
Yeah, Sebastian was coming to the end of his lap, but invalidated. And yeah, I think most people are just on their out laps or in laps, except for Craig, who is on his lap in the Alfa Romeo, and the only driver left in Alfa Romeo in his qualifying session. So let's see if he could get his team high up on the grid for the race.
I'm looking at the people in the pits at the moment. It could end up being extremely busy on the track trying to get in that last lap.
Yeah, I think that's always a problem with these street races, but luckily in these league races I think it's not too much of a problem. And yeah, second for Bastian, and again the gap between the second all the way down to like 8th really isn't that much.
The only problem for Sebastian he's got there is he's put 3 laps on that soft. So if he starts on those tyres, he's going to be the early pitter.
Yeah, that's the only that's a difficult aspect of the track, is that you could if you make a mistake on your first lap, you can go on your second lap and you can keep going until you because obviously quite a few mistakes are going to be made over the course of the lap, so you're always going to improve your lap if you stay out, but it does really wear out your tyres as F1 gets very, very close to the wall there at the end of his lap, coming out of the chicane.
You are completely right about that as well, because you get into a rhythm around these kind of tracks, so sometimes you have a better race than you do qualifying if you're stopping and starting a lot. So like you say, it can be helpful to stay out and do more laps, but you can really end up hurting your own race on the tyre wear.
Yeah, definitely. I think tyre wear is really crucial in qualifying and in the race.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that Colin's a bit of a master at. He seems to be able to find those laps under pressure and not have to put too much through his tyres because he's, gets it done in one lap.
Yeah, Colin, I think, is the master at just keeping
Racing in
consistent.
general.
Yeah, not making any mistakes and just keeping consistent. And we've seen Jetfish going P2 and the second driver in the 108. They're only 2/10 of Colin, so that is very great to see that the gap is closing down at the front.
That's interesting. Am I right in thinking that Colin's 108.6 is his lap from the mediums though, even though he's on softs now? I may be wrong.
I'm going to be honest, I'm not too sure. I think it might be. Yeah, I think it might be, and if that's the case...
Oh, he's backed out of that.
Yeah, was that traffic?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, a bit of traffic, I think. I mean, to be honest, it might be better for him if he starts on pole with the mediums rather than going even quicker on them softs.
Yeah, but the only thing is he needs to get a good start because, of course, on the mediums it's much more difficult to get your start perfect. So he needs to try and really focus to get a good start and to just maintain that track position. Because if he gets
it's not
overtaken,
the track you want to be surrounded by in the first corner, is it? That's
no,
a really good point.
Yeah, it's Boris quite far down in his lap time now. And all the way down in 18th, so let's hope he could make up some time. We've got Colin coming to the end. Oh, yeah, he's said he has backed out of it. There's a spin. It looks like Bakker might be out of the session.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
just
out
on the exit of
7, I think it might be. I'm not actually too sure.
I imagine he's just got a bit greedy with the throttle through there. And Sminotler is also retired from the session, but I think he's retired in the pits, so he's not going out to do another lap.
Yeah, Luke in the Ferrari on a lap. He's personal best sector 2, but he was down by a 10th on his sector 1. His teammate behind him is really pushing. Colin with 2 purple sectors, looking very good for the Ferrari boys. Let's see what Luke can do then across the line. And he goes P6. P6 and not too far off the McLaren drivers.
Yeah, that top 6 is incredible. Well, from second down to 6th, it's incredibly tight.
Yes, and my game seems to glitch. I can't get to Colin fast enough, and he does.
108.1.
Yeah, wow, that's a big gap.
That's incredible lap. And it's so close behind him. It in 7/10 almost takes you from from 3rd to 12th, and that's the same difference to his pole.
Oh, sorry,
I just caught that.
Yeah, just Aston Martin. I'm not sure who that was. Captain Martin just avoided it, but Deck, who was definitely on a good lap.
Yeah, and I just caught that. I switched to Deck at the exact time that he came out of the final corner, and
wasn't able to avoid it.
Nothing he could do about that.
Definitely not that. Yeah, I think Boris actually let Deck go as well. I think they were working together a bit, maybe perhaps giving each other the toe. But yeah, just very unfortunate there. Luke is coming into the pit, and yeah, that will be it for qualifying then. So the Red Bull driver unfortunately not able to finish his lap. But I guess he'll definitely have some work to do in the race. But I guess he has the alternative strategy to play with.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a good qualifying session for Ferrari and McLaren. Already, it looks like it could be a little bit of a constructors' battle between those two.
Yeah. Yeah, go on.
And yeah, obviously Colin's now going to be starting on softs. He won't be on those mediums. I think the 108.6 was on mediums, which would have given a strategy advantage. So it's neutralised the top 10. But the other 9 can still do something with strategy here. It's a tough race on tyres.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a tough race in general. So here is the qualifying standings. We've got RPM Colin in the Ferrari, a whole 7/10 clear of second place Jetfish. Then we've got Sebastian, Sminola, Baka, Luke, Lucist, Higgsy, Bantam Brandon, Ephraim, Brent, Captain Mazel, Craig, Deck, Andrew, Dennis, Richard, Boris, and Sprunky was unfortunately unable to set a lap time, and I think it definitely will be an interesting race.
Yeah, it's oh, and I just noticed Banter Brandon was on the mediums, wasn't he, in ninth there?
Oh yeah, so that would be...
So that could be an interesting one if he can make up a few positions off the start.
Yeah, if he could make a few positions off the start, that would definitely really disadvantage the soft runners behind, because it's very difficult to overtake and the soft runners will just be losing so much time.
Yeah, and I guess the question is as well with the softs to mediums and how the race plays out, or when people are pitting, because it can change a lot how you're looking after tyres, is whether the undercut or overcut will be favoured here. I know it switches at different tracks. So strategy can all come into play here. It's not over yet.
Yeah, definitely. And well, we saw in low gear the two Alpines working quite well together, and you and your teammate in the McLarens working quite well together. Then the McLarens are next to each other on the grid. We've got Baka and Spinotla in the McLaren, so let's see if they could maybe work together, because it's quite difficult to overtake it. So if they could work together throughout this race, they might be able to get a good position come the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just 10 seconds till we're getting away the formation lap on the first race of the season.
Yeah. Let's see how they do. Let's hope it's a clean race as well. It's very difficult on Canada, but yeah, RPM I think is a pretty clean league. So
yeah, and you know, obviously we have our steward in the background that's, you know, seen by the league on Discord after the race. It does keep people in check. You can't get away with doing dirty driving.
yeah, definitely. I think all these drivers, obviously, if something does happen, they don't mean for it to happen. It's just racing sometimes, you know, and especially on this track, these guys are going to have to be extra careful, especially on lap 1, because it will be very difficult to not run into each other. So they'll have to just be a bit careful with that.
Yeah, I think you've got to throw caution to the wind into that first corner. It can get very sketchy, and to be honest, even out of the first corner, you can struggle with traction in the run down to the next chicane, and obviously through there it's not really an overtaking opportunity either. It's very tight, so it's going to be interesting to see how these guys get on. I mean, they're really good drivers, and hopefully we see a good race and some good overtakes as the race goes on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting race, and from 9th downwards, we definitely have a mix of strategy. We saw a big Puggy in low gear on the hards, and he had a really good race, got up into the points, and Boris has done the same thing from P18. So let's see how he does. And then yeah, we've got quite a mix. We've got a lot of guys on mediums and a lot of guys on softs. So let's see how the strategy plays out.
Yeah, and we're lining up on the grid now. We're still waiting for a few to join. It's actually quite a long wait for these guys on the grid. They're just making their way through the chicane now. So tyres might be getting a little bit cold at the front here.
Yeah, 10th all the way down as well.
Yeah, and they've only just took place now on the grid.
Yeah, so it is going to be definitely an interesting race, and everyone lining up on the grid now. So we do have 35 laps of the Canadian Grand Prix, and the laps are coming on now.
Okay, let's go.
And it looks like quite a good start from the Mercedes driver there. The Ferrari maybe trying to hang up the inside. There's a McLaren going very deep into turn 1, but luckily avoiding making contact there. But Jefffish has taken the lead, and Colin slots into second place there.
Yeah, and he nearly came back in and got very tight there, and Sebastian nearly had a look on Colin, but he's going back for it.
Yep, oh, a bit of contact there.
Around the outside.
Yep, I think that was good defending.
Yeah, it was. And obviously there's no DRS at this point, so...
Yep, and he looks again as he gets very wayward, yeah.
Moment.
And the AlphaTauri Sebastian might be on him as well. He's looking up the inside into the hairpin, very heavy braking zone, and he tries to go up the inside. Colin hangs it all the way around the outside, and now, well, Colin has kept it there, but it will be a drag race with slipstream.
From Colin, to be fair. I thought he'd struggle to keep hold of that position when Sebastian went up the inside.
Yeah, he has, in the Ferrari track, he's really been, I think, with some of the other drivers, he's definitely one to watch, and I think we noticed quite a lot his traction out of corners is very good, and that might just help him with tyre wear and racing.
Yeah.
And we've got a Mercedes into the pits, and a Haas and an Alpine, so might have been a bit of contact down at the back of the grid.
So if anyone's just joined us, we've had a swap for the lead. Colin has been overtaken. There has been no positions lost for the next 5 places. They've stayed right in position. And then there's been a lot of change in the midfield pack. Look at Sprunky, he's up 6 positions from 19th on the grid to 13th, so great start for him. The big loser out of that is, I'm going to call him Tabone, there's so much going on in his name, and 17th there. He's lost 7 places, unfortunately.
Yeah, F1 definitely losing a lot in the Haas. Yeah, I think there was contact, so he did have to pit, and Sminotla and Colin trying to go around the outside of Jetfish in his Ferrari, maybe around the outside of the chicane. They do make contact, and Jetfish spins around, and Bakker's out. Bakker is out of the race as they make contact.
He spun back onto the track right into, unfortunately, into the path of Bakker there. It was just, I don't know who you were on board with then. I was watching on board with Jetfish, and he was on the inside. And unfortunately, 2 don't go into 1 in that corner.
Yeah, I think overtaking on the
some rear wing damage there from that.
Yeah, I think no, he doesn't look to, he doesn't seem to have any damage. I think overtaking on the inside there is okay, but overtaking on the outside, you really have to make sure you give the other driver enough space. Not really too sure what happened there, but yeah, unfortunate incident for the both of them, and yeah, we've already got 1 driver out of the race.
Yeah, and he'll be gutted about that because he was in a really good position.
Yeah, the race gets back underway, and Sebastian is very close to Sminotla. Luke has made his way up into P4, and Sebastian a bit too far behind to make a move into the chicane. He nearly loses it there. Losing traction a bit, and now Luke is very close. They've both got DRS, and they're getting a bit too far back. But yeah, I think if these guys can just stay in DRS, I think they're so close in pace. I think there'll be quite a few fights happening along the grid, and it will definitely be interesting with DRS, as most of the overtaking will be happening on like the back straight, the long back straight, and everywhere else they'll just have to follow each other really. We've got our first penalty of the race, so just showing how difficult track limits are.
That incident and how difficult it is to overtake round here. I'm not really sure it was anyone's fault. I think it was just an awkward incident. Colin was ahead on the outside, but
that corner is very difficult to get around with 2 people.
Yeah, 2 definitely doesn't go into 1 there. But with all the trials and tribulations of what's just happened, we've seen some different strategies as well here. seeing a few people on the hard tyres, so it'd be interesting to see how that plays out and if they try and extend it the whole race.
Yeah, I think they could maybe go to the end if they look after their tyres, and they'll gain a lot of track position from the two stoppers. Sebastian unfortunately getting a penalty already in P3, so that really will not help him. He'll just have to push and try and hope that the guys behind aren't able to keep the gap. And yeah, it's kind of a single file all the way through the first and second sector.
Yeah, and certainly, I mean, from 10th downwards, there's some massive gaps between the cars.
Well, differing strategies, I think, with different tyres. I think the gaps are going to widen a bit there. You've got yellow flag, sector 2, and I think that's Andrew, yep, spinning and coming back through the grass. Luckily, he doesn't have any wing damage. We've got Luke still really close to Sebastian, who's still really close to Sminotla, and Colin already 4 seconds and running away with it here.
Yeah, and Jet Fisher's on the back of this. This is the tightest racing we're seeing on track at the moment. And obviously with DRS enabled now as well, Sminotla's really going to be feeling the pressure.
Yeah, Spunky getting a penalty, so 3 guys in 6 laps already with penalties because of the track limit. And yeah, it's definitely going to be a close race between these guys. Qualifying was so close, so there's no reason why the race shouldn't be as close. Luke getting on the curb there, and I think these curbs are very difficult, losing a bit of grip there.
Interestingly, Brandon and Brent have caught right up to this fight for second place, and they are both on the mediums. So that's really played into their hands.
Yeah, and I think it's going to play even more into their hands as the stint goes on, because as Brent gets past actually before the chicane, because as the soft runners, their tyres will start to degrade, the mediums will just come into play, and maybe towards the end of the soft runners stint, so you might see Brent and Brandon getting past some of these guys.
Yeah, and what we've got else going on is
we've got Ujak in the pits.
Lucis is catching up on these guys now. This is a huge train forming behind Sminotla.
Yeah, it is, and this is really helping Colin. 5.6 seconds the gap already in 7 laps.
Yeah, and just a shout out here to Boris, who's now on the hards, and he's up 7 places from his starting position. So this race is starting to go his way a little bit. Obviously there's a big gap to the guys in front, but I'm not sure he'll pit again here, which might change things a little bit for him.
Well, he started on the hard, so he'll definitely have to pit again.
Oh, is he, did he start on the hards?
Yeah, but I think he's mirroring Puggy's strategy quite a lot here.
Yeah, sorry, it's Sprunky that switched to the hards. Sorry, yeah, that's my mistake.
But starting on the hards, if he could just keep consistent, all the guys around him will pit, and he really will gain track position, which is vital around this track. Jeff is getting very close to Luke there through turn 2. And yeah, these guys just staying very close to each other, maybe not going for moves that they could do, just being a bit careful.
Oh, and Dex crashed.
Is that in the pit? I think might be in the... Yeah, no, it's on the track. It's on the track, and it's a safety car then.
Safety car, yeah. He's lost it. Yeah, we saw some...
It would be...
well, he crashed out there in qualifying after hitting someone, but we saw a few people lose it into that wall.
Yeah. Well, the Wall of Champions back at it again, and yeah.
And that makes things interesting. I think Brent and Brandon will be really frustrated with that one, because it kind of leaves them in a bit in limbo, like, as to what they're doing, because they've obviously started on the mediums.
Well, what they could do is maybe pit to the mediums again, and then go to softs for the end, because all the guys around him will probably be pitting for mediums anyway, and then going mediums to the end after that. So I guess it would just be like a alternative strategy. But it looks like they both are going onto medium tyres.
Yeah, looks like you could also be an engineer there, Shaq, calling everything right tonight.
That's not well, definitely not the best
Brent's
strategy.
Brent's
gone
actually
soft.
put the softs on, hasn't he?
So what? He'll have to
So-
go mediums to the end then. I guess.
Yeah.
Like
Or he could, yeah, he's going to have to go
He
medium. There's
couldn't
no way
go
he's
to
making
the
make
end.
those softs last, is he? For another player, I don't think. So that could be interesting off this restart then, because Brent will be having a ton of grip compared to the guys in front.
I mean, could he go soft? Like, could he pit for another pair of softs and go
I'm
to
trying
the
to do
end?
the calculations in my head here. I think you can. Did it say you could get 10?
He could do
10 or
it, he
11
could
laps
do
on
it.
He could possibly just make it.
But it'll be difficult.
Yeah, and it's really well. I suppose it depends how long the safety car stays out as well. He'll be hoping it stays out a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And just help him out if he wants to get another pair of softs on.
F1 in the Haas is quite far behind, so it might go for another lap, and maybe even another 2 laps.
Has he been lapped, or is he still on the leader's lap here?
I don't know. My thing. No, he's still on the leader's lap.
Okay, so that's worked out nicely for him. I think he's just was unfortunate to start suffering some damage, so that'll allow him to come back into the race.
Yeah, it will. I think he had a pretty decent qualifying, so it will definitely benefit him because he does have good pace.
And interestingly, Sprunky has stayed on his hards, so you'd imagine he's going to stick that through and try and go to the end on them.
Yeah, and Boris as well. He didn't stay on his hards. He pit to mediums. So I guess he won't be able to, because if he stayed out, he could have been able to maybe gain some track position, but
yeah, and then potentially put the softs on towards the end of the race.
Yeah, when everyone else pits again, but at the same time, hards are very difficult tyres on this track, so
yeah, and especially I guess off a safety car restart, you can end up losing out too much on the hards anyway. So you might just want to have a bit more pace.
yeah, and Ren is really well surrounded here. He has to make sure that he gets his restart absolutely perfect, because if he gets overtaken by Bantam Brandon and Lucist, it's going to make his life difficult, because of course he's on the soft, so he has to push to try and gain just track position, because when he pits onto the mediums, he's going to be on the slower tyre compared to everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And the safety car is in this lap, so Colin will be leading them off shortly. He'll be looking to check out again. I think he was 4 or 5 seconds up the road before the safety car came out, so that's been equalised.
Yeah.
The question is, when does he go?
Has he gone?
I
Looks like
think
he's gone pretty
now.
early.
Yeah.
So the race will be resumed. We have Colin already nearly a second ahead of Sminotla. So really great restart from him. We've got Jetfish very close to Luke, but not able to make a move just yet. Spunky and Craig are fighting. Spunky on the outside and just got passed into P10, and Craig might lose another position to Dennis. And Boris, does he have damage?
Boris,
He
yeah.
does have damage, yeah. So Boris up into P12 then.
A bit on the front wing, I think.
Brent hasn't been able to make any position, but he is very close to Luke here. I mean, Jetfish, should I say.
Yeah, Luke's he got caught out bad at the start a little bit and dropped back off Sebastian a bit, but he's closed it up in the last sector a little bit. But he's got Jetfish for company and he's right on his tail.
Yeah. Of course, the
And I
others are
think
not enabled yet.
Brent will be watching this and hoping he can take advantage of the battling and get past these guys soon to make that soft strategy work.
Yeah, but it will be really difficult. Colin already getting a fastest lap just after the restart. But yeah, it will be difficult for Brent to do this because it's so hard to overtake. It's not like other tracks where you could pit for softs and then immediately um, gain 5 positions after the restart, you know. It'll be difficult just to make 1 position. So it'll be difficult for them to make it work.
Yeah, and I think because there's 3 DRS zones on this track, but apart from the long straight, like this one that Rabeshi and Sminotla are in, it's fairly short, and you end up getting close, but maybe not quite close enough to actually get the move done.
Yeah.
And it can make you trip over each other a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But they are really close, and Sebastian actually is pushing Sminotla along then. He will not have DRS because DRS is enabled next lap. And yeah.
Normal service has resumed a bit here, hasn't it? Colin's checked out and he's about nearly 4.5 seconds ahead. And all these guys are right on top of each other again, just as it was before the safety car.
Yeah. Just with opposite strategy because now Brent is on the softs and these guys are on the mediums.
We're starting to see quite a few penalties get picked up here, and that could be a deciding factor towards the end of the race. As Dennis
no, was in the pits. That was in the pits.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. 3-second penalties for Sebastian, Banter, Brandon, Higgsy, Skranky, Boris, Craig, and 6 seconds for Richard already.
Yeah, and it's because, you know, to find a pace in here, you're having to use a lot of curve, and there's another one for Luke. It's very difficult to avoid those track limits.
Yeah, exactly. And especially because, like, I think it's turn 3. I find that really difficult because it's downhill. So I don't know. I just find it really difficult not to cut the corner a bit.
There's quite a few corners that are chicane-like or kind of an extended chicane. If you get the first part of it wrong, you can mess up the second part, either run wide into a wall or you have to cut the track a bit to keep it out of the wall, and then, you know, you've got other issues when you start picking up penalties.
Yeah, this track is really, really difficult, but yeah, these guys are doing really well not to trip over each other. They really are going single file through all of these corners. The DRS is enabled, so it'll make it a bit easier.
Yeah, and
but I think
he's on the inside of Luke.
Oh yeah, he is. And up into P4, so Luke losing a position.
And
he might
Brent's
even lose a position
take
to Brent.
advantage of that. Up the inside of the hairpin on Luke. He's got very close to Jetfish there as well.
Oh, and Brandon might even gain from this as well.
Yeah. But Luke's having to fight back with Brent here.
Yeah, and Sebastian also going up the inside of Sminotla. And up into P2. And Brent finally making overtakes up into P5 for the Alfa Romeo driver.
Yeah, and can he get after Jetfish and the others? He needs to start getting these overtakes done on this tyre. But it's like you were saying before, it's tough to overtake, especially when they're in this DRS train. Interestingly though, Brent has been conserving his DRS. He's got 70% on board, where a lot of guys around him are down in 40s, 30s and 20s.
Yeah, so I guess Brent just preserving his ERS for when he gets close, or...
Yeah, because he'll need it if they're in a DRS train.
Yeah.
He'll need any advantage he can get.
And of course, he's on the faster tyres currently, until his tyres start wearing out, so he doesn't really need to use as much ERS. That's not getting very close to Sebastian there.
And we got Brandon right on the back of Luke as well here. And Sminotla will send it up to the inside, I think, here.
Yeah, because Sebastian doesn't have DRS.
And you do feel like a sitting duck on that final straight when you don't have the DRS.
Yeah, Jetfish getting a penalty as well. Brandon getting past Luke. And yeah, now these guys are starting to get close on the straights now that DRS is enabled.
Yeah, and Riyad's just picked up another penalty there. He's up to 9 seconds now. So the penalties are starting to rack up across the field.
Yeah. They are. It's just Canada, really. The track limits being so difficult and the game being so strict with them. So I think if you can be consistent like Brent is doing with the penalties, he could really gain from it at the end of the race. Like I think Atlas G did when he won the race in Logia because of penalties.
Yeah, and I think that was it was a late penalty as well, wasn't it, for one of the drivers, which must have been gutting.
Yeah, of course.
And Colin is completely checked out. I mean, how long have we been racing for? About 4 or 5 laps after that safety car. Spinotla's got a 3 second. So
all of them except for Brent.
So Brent, I mean, he's on the better tyres here. If he can make up some positions, he's got ERS in hand. He could really do something here.
Yeah, but he's struggling a bit, and now his tyres are starting to wear out. I mean, if I go to the tyre wear, his tyres are more worn than the medium runners already. So, yeah, he will start to slow down a bit.
Because really, he needs to go another 3 or 4 laps at least to try and get another pair of softs on.
Well, how long can you go? You can go.
I think it's between 10 and 12.
Yeah, so he'll have to do quite a few laps.
He's
going on the inside there.
And he'll have DRS here, but so will Jetfish.
Yeah, but he's on the inside. He's not benefiting from slipstream too much, and he slots back in behind Jetfish. Yeah, and of course he was so close in the chicane, so he lost a bit of speed on the exit.
Yeah, and Banter Brandon, I didn't realise when this was going on, he got past Luke and he's onto the back of this now, as well as Luke being there. And then we've got quite a big gap down to Lucis in 8th, who's closely followed by Higgsy in 9th.
Yeah, so it's like a train from 2nd all the way down to 9th. And then battles going on elsewhere. We've got Boris really close to Andrew as well.
Yeah, and Andrew's on 16 lap old mediums there, so Boris should have the pace advantage on him.
Well, he's done very well to get it to 16 laps, so he's definitely going for the one stop. No point going that far and then pitting twice now.
Yeah, unless he's chucking the softs on, trying to do similar to Brent at the end. I don't know.
Well, he still just goes one lap on the soft.
Yeah, maybe Brent will try and take these to the end like Bakker did in the team race in Bahrain.
Yeah. Jetfish getting very close to the McLaren, and Bantam Brandon has got another penalty, so that will take his penalty total up to 6 seconds now. And Brent still with no penalties, so looking good for him.
Yeah, and it shows you the importance here as well, because if it was to finish now the race, Brent would finish 2nd, even though finishing 5th on the track, so it shows you how important it is to just try and avoid penalties at all costs.
Yeah, Brent is now up to 30% tyre wear, so I guess he could stretch these tyres out a bit longer, but he'll have to pit soon, definitely. And you know what, maybe if he could get the undercut on these guys, he could, because they're quite bunched up and maybe losing time behind each other, if he could undercut these medium guys, then he might be able to gain all these positions through the pit stops.
Because I'm just trying to figure this out as well, so effectively the guys who are on the mediums now, who pitted for the mediums, if they want to take it to the end, that would mean they've done 26 laps on them, and I think that is just going to be a stretch too far, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be, because, well, Andrew on 17 lap hold mediums is on.
He's just lost the place to Boris.
Yeah, and he's on 30 lap. Oh, he's only on 30% tyre wear. So
when he's just come back at Boris, who's run wide. So it's not,
too
it's
bad.
not horrific, but obviously he's still got another, well, almost half the race to do on his tyres.
Yeah.
It's going to be, it's quite an interesting one. That safety car came at a time for people when I think they would have been hoping it was at least a few laps later, and Brent had a mini spin there,
Oh.
and
Oh, that's a collision. Yeah. Who was that between Luke maybe or Brandon?
yeah. So Brent got on the throttle a little bit too early, went slightly sideways, and then Brandon hit him as he was going sideways, and then came back round. I think Brent run into his wing again.
Yeah. So Brandon and Brent both have front wing damage. So
But
very
it's a
unlucky for
safety
them.
car there.
Ah, it is.
Even
It is.
though we haven't got retirement, so
Yeah, but debris. So I mean that will help the guys involved, I guess.
yeah, I mean Brent will effectively only just lose track position from it, one position.
Yeah, and I guess all these, well, some pit for medium, some pit for softs then, so that's going to be interesting. Brent has gone for new softs, and then we've got Sebastian, Luke, Lucis and Higgsy on mediums, and Spelunky, but we have Captain Maisel and
Yeah, and
Spinotler.
Sminotler have stayed out
Stayed out.
mediums. So Sminotler's fancying track position now. Colin's going to be seriously quick on those soft tyres.
Yeah, with no
And for soft
penalties as well.
runners, what will we resume racing? Maybe lap 22, lap 23, probably lap 23. So they'll have 12 laps, which would work.
Yeah, it'll work. It'll be
But it'll
difficult
be,
towards the end.
It'll be really quite ropey on the last couple of laps, won't it? I think.
Yeah, it will. It will definitely be interesting with the different strategies. I mean, all throughout the field we have soft runners and medium runners. So we've got Sminotler leading from Colin, and then a lot of guys have penalties. So the guys without penalties, if they could just keep close behind, they'll have a good shot of gaining 4 or 5 positions maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, obviously, with everyone on these fresh tyres and a few soft runners around, it could be. It could get a bit hairy for drivers because obviously Maisel and Sminotler are on much older medium tyres. And I think Jetfish will be fancying this now. Obviously he was running at the front battling with Colin before a little bit of contact. I think he'll be hoping for a good start and get back onto Colin and see if he can race him to the end.
Yes, it's definitely going to be an interesting race. I think Sminotler will find it difficult, maybe, but with how difficult it is to overtake, he might be able to keep track position here. But of course, he does have penalties, which will cost him a bit. And I think the safety car will be in this lap because the whole pack has joined up. And yep, it is in this lap.
And you've called another thing right there. You're on fire tonight, Shaq.
It's commentator's curse, but in reverse.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
I've got a lot, now everyone's bunched up like you said. They've got lots of penalties in there. What we see in the order now isn't not necessarily going to be what ends up the order at the end.
no, so we've got 3 seconds and 6 seconds, and Richard with 9 seconds throughout the field. So it's going to be interesting. So Sminotler leading the pack from Colin, Captain Maisel. Lucis has a 5-second penalty for causing a collision with, or just colliding with Luke, unfortunately. So that's how we'll add even more to his penalties, and Sminotler leaving it much later than Colin has.
Yeah.
He's going to leave it all the way down
And it's getting very tight, and someone else has made contact. Someone's lost front wing back there.
Yeah, and Spinola has left Colin
And another
Denson.
car as well. I think Brent lost front wing in there.
Yeah, Richard is off as well.
Yeah, it's chaos through there.
Yeah, Jetfish getting past Sebastian quickly. Up into P4 for the Mercedes driver, but yeah, it's not leaving it very late there and causing a bit of mayhem behind.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Colin already on the back and pressurising Spinola there. Burnt a spun, I think it is. No, it's not. Oh yeah, he's just got major front wing damage, as you said earlier.
Yeah, I think about 3 or 4 cars. I couldn't see who it was because I was watching from the first corner backwards down the straight.
Oh, is that? Oh, so Colin, yeah, getting past Spinola. Sorry to interrupt you there, but entered the lead.
Yeah, no worries. And I saw about 3 or 4 cars lose their front wings, so I think there's quite a lot of people that struggled. But Colin now will be absolutely flying on those softs.
Yeah, and it's not like with very worn mediums opting not to pit, and he will be struggling for pace, but for track position. If the cars behind him get close to him throughout the chicanes in the middle sector, then that'll make it a bit easier. But if they get close to him on the straight, then you know, DRS will really help.
Yeah, and I think Jetfish would be desperate to get past. Obviously, I mean, if Captain Meisel can keep with them and keep those tyres on, just loads of penalties around him, he could get an incredible result here out of this.
Yeah, and Brent with no penalties, he had a great potential. Unfortunately, he had to pit to the end because of damage.
Yeah, he was looking very good for a podium for a long time there, and unfortunate for him.
Yeah, definitely. And Richie there in the chat, supporting Ferrari as usual. And Jetfish all the way around the outside of Spinola, and he gets a great run out of the corner. He's not going to have DRS, of course, and it's going to be a drag race all the way down to the chicane. And Jetfish has done so well to get himself alongside Spinola there. And it's going to be side by side through the chicane, and Jetfish around the outside the hairpin and up into P2 for the Mercedes driver then. And Sebastian also lost a bit of time on the exit of the chicane. Luke also going up the inside of Captain Meisel. Bit of contact there.
He's got it done though, and then Lucis has got very close. It's very tight in this midfield battle. Just a quick note for anyone watching. Ephraim Tabone has stopped 5 times and he's in 12th. I know there's been some safety cars to help out, but that's incredible for the amount of stops he's had.
Yeah, that really is. He went from soft to med to hard to med to soft to med, so definitely a confusing strategy, but nonetheless got himself up into P12, and Captain Meisel being forced off the track there, and he's going to lose 3 positions there.
And he struggled in the early part of this restart on those mediums, and Boris is right up behind him now. Boris was late on the brakes and has also got great traction out there. Beautiful drive from Boris in that hairpin.
Yep,
out of it a little here though.
Yeah, Spunky also getting past Lucis, I think it was. FCT says not pitting was a mistake from Spinola. Well, he's still in the podium with 6 seconds penalties, but it'd be difficult for him. But I guess it was a gamble. But he has 10 laps left. 10 laps left.
Because where was he, 3rd or 4th before that?
Yeah.
I think probably pitting would have been a sensible decision, but you never know with track position. Maybe that's what he was looking for, but on that old of mediums, it's always going to be difficult to do anything.
Yeah, and the AlphaTauri of Sebastian's very close to him now. If he gets really close to the wall, then McLaren driver does. Boris has got a penalty, and Sebastian may be setting up a move here. Yeah, so the penalties really stacking up here. We've got from 2nd all the way down to 8th have penalties.
Captain Meisel, if he can keep it with these guys, could still be on for a good finish here. To at least gain, currently, on penalties, he will gain all the way up to 4th, I think.
Yeah, so with worn tyres and getting overtaken But
yeah,
yeah,
it's all about just
it's all
maintaining
about
the gap, isn't it? For
exactly
him?
all about being consistent with Meisel, seeing what he can do,
Everyone
and
to own
also
on his
F1 as
five-stop
well.
strategies up into 10th and chasing down Boris.
And as you said, with the penalties, he will gain a lot.
Yeah, he was 20 seconds behind everyone at one point in the race after having collisions early on, and those safety cars have really helped him come back into the race. And
Yeah,
he's
Boris
really
has
taken
had.
advantage
Oh,
of
that's
it now.
F1 spun actually.
And,
nearly
and
into the
that
path of
is the curse of the
Alpine.
commentator. I apologise to him straight away.
I was just about to say as well, Boris had a terrible exit, as he does again. He doesn't have damage, but he nearly hit the wall there. And yeah, F1 was getting so much closer to him, and yeah, unfortunately, exit of turn 7, I think it is. Bit of a spin there, and
Yeah, that's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
I apologise for the curse of the commentator there. When it's close between Higgsy and Lucis there.
Oh,
and they crashed.
Higgsy's out.
Yeah,
And they're gonna have to
again,
avoid him.
Two into one in that corner just does not work. You're better off waiting for the next straight. I couldn't really see who was ahead or anything. I joined it quite late.
Yeah, it was on the exit of the corner as well. It wasn't like Collins and Jetfishers. It was more the second apex. So they got through the first one, and yeah.
And then just ran out of room. So that's
Another safety
car. Just watching Lucis nearly hit the actual safety car. Stopped on the road then. That was nearly very close. So again, what happens here? Andrew will be loving this with not many laps left. He's got no penalties. He could be a big gainer from this if he keeps it clean.
Yeah, and F1 as well, even though he spun and got himself back down to P14 and pit again, so for 6 times.
Every time he's had an issue, the safety cars come out.
Yeah.
So, will he have any tyres left?
Well, he's on soft. Fresh soft medium is what? He's on fresh soft tires now, so he will be able to go to the end. And I think not too many guys are pitting, so this could really benefit him.
Yeah, and Colin had checked out again, but he's obviously pegged back again, and we are seeing some people pit here.
Yeah, so it's back to square one then. I guess I'll be going to
Smonotley
soft.
gets his fresh tyres finally, and so does Meisel.
And Boris up to P5. Of course, on worn tyres. But I think that was a great job from P18.
Yeah, and he's... Well, it's, 8 laps softs. He might only have 3 or 4 to go on them, so it will be technically around 12 racing laps on them, so... Could just be doable for Boris, but obviously the guys behind on fresh softs will have more grip.
Yeah, it's difficult for all these guys who haven't pit, including Colin. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Also, Brent hasn't pit, down in P11, and everyone now with the RPM points system will be getting points. So even down in P15, not a bad result, because of course it's better to get 1 point than none.
Yeah, exactly, and I think we've seen it in drivers and constructors titles before. Any small amount of points can change the course of the titles.
Definitely. So I think safety car will be coming in this lap or the next. So we'll have like 6 laps to the end of the race. So it's a 6 lap sprint. Well, 6 laps isn't really a sprint, but yeah, it will definitely be interesting because Craig is on 10 lap old mediums, so they're definitely not fresh. So he's going to have a difficult time defending from the guys behind.
And I think you're going to be right about that safety car again. You've been on fire tonight, because I'm just seeing that Riyadh is coming through the first corner, so he will catch them in certainly the second sector here. Yeah, and Sprunky and Boris, shout outs to them. Up 15 places and 13 respectively. Incredible driving.
Yeah, well, look at the position changes now. So yeah, as you said, we've got Sprunky 15 positions gained, Boris 5 positions, 13 should I say, positions gained, and then we've got Craig 7 positions gained, Captain Maisel, Andrew 3 and 5 positions gained, and then Richard gained 2 positions. The top 3 have stayed the same, interestingly, and then unfortunately Spinotla, Luke, Banter Brandon, Ephraim and Lucis have lost positions, but that could just be because of their strategies and they could gain it towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it safe to car on this lap? I didn't see a message on my screen.
So we've got Sebastian, okay. Sprunky and Craig, the only ones on mediums. From 6 upwards, they're all on worn tyres. I'll go to the penalties for now. But yeah, Colin leading another safety car restart and again goes pretty early.
Yeah, and it hasn't caused chaos like the last restart did, and it's worked well for him. Both times he's just caught the other driver slightly asleep.
And also worked well for Spinotla, who's going up the inside of Craig in the McLaren. Goes right around the outside into turn 2, and that's a great move. Of course, with his fresh tyres, Craig has 11 lap old worn mediums, so he's done well to get past as early as possible. And Luke now right at the back of Craig as well.
Yeah, I think I missed it. Captain Meisel's picked up a penalty somewhere, so he's now got 3 seconds. So Andrew and Brent are the ones looking to take advantage of any penalties ahead.
Yeah. If I go to gap to the leader, this should help. So Brent will, if it stands now, Brent will maybe get himself up to P5 or something.
Yeah, it's around about that. Well, because they've got 6 seconds in P5 and P4 though as well, so could be further.
Yeah.
And talking of penalties, there's another one for Brandon there.
12 seconds, unfortunately.
So I think the maths is just going to elude us. It
is
very difficult to watch all the racing and the overtaking as well as doing the maths.
Definitely.
But I think we're going to see a bit of a change when they come across the line. And Jack Fisher's trying to keep Colin honest, but Colin is just absolutely flying on these fresh softs at the moment.
Yeah, Colin is definitely. I mean, apparently he is second in the world in time trial, I think, on this track. So he's mighty fast.
Yeah, and he's proving that today. He's checked out a few times, and the safety car has brought him back to the rest of the field.
Yeah. Looks like Spinotla trying to go all around the outside of Sprunky, getting squeezed to the wall, but and just left enough space.
Unbelievable overtake there. He had a lot of bottle to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, and just as we were talking, I haven't noticed what's happened. Brent's dropped down. I don't know what's happened, but he's dropped down to 13.
Yeah.
So it's Andrew that's looking to take advantage of all these penalties now.
Yeah, Brent getting close to Ephraim. Just not able to go for the move quite yet.
And Spinotla is massively closed up onto Sebastian here. I mean, I think DRS will now be enabled, will it? So
yeah,
there it is. You might have to be patient through here and wait for the final straight.
Yeah, and Luke trying to go up the inside of Craig, but just backing out and a bit of contact. No wing damage though, and gets a better exit and up into P7. Spinotla trying to go around the outside again with the same move, and has he done it? He's done it. Up into P3. Wow.
And he'll have the DRS.
Yeah, so
which will leave Sebastian massively exposed to Sprunky, and Sprunky comes through.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that.
Sprunky is now up 15 places, but he gets a penalty and
slams into the wall.
Again, I've been speaking too soon. As soon as I think someone's about to do really well, they end up binning it.
Yeah, so he's got one more lap to go. I'm guessing he'll try and
Yeah, it
keep
looks
it
like
to
he's
the end.
just. I mean, he hasn't lost the whole front wing, but he's got damage on that front right end plate.
Yeah.
That's going to massively help Spinotler though form a gap.
Yeah, but Sebastian's got fast, so. Well, Sebastian has like a less than 1/10 gap to Spinotler when the penalties come into play.
Yeah, so it's going to be tight on penalties with them.
Andrew, though, will gain a lot.
Andrew's definitely going to gain a lot. And Boris and Luke are now hunting down Sprunky. Obviously, Sprunky's got the damage. He's got a yellow flag. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
I think that was Richard. Oh, Riyadh.
Okay. We're getting a few more DRS trains forming here in the midfield. It's been a story of this race a little bit.
Yep. And we've got one more lap. Colin completing the well, completing 34 laps now onto the final one. Then so Luke has got himself in front of Branquitas, yellow flags in sector 3. Richard has retired in the pits, unfortunately.
Which is a strange decision considering he would have had
One
points.
lap. Yeah, one lap.
And a penalty for Bone, who had 0 penalties at that point, so they might not make up as much as they were before.
Yeah, and
But it's been
interestingly,
a stunning drive from Colin tonight with all the safety cars, and there was jostling for position with Jetfish. You know, there's no surprise that he's second in time trial in the world because he's been mighty here today.
Definitely,
But
definitely.
some unbelievable racing through the field, and Lucist has dropped it.
yeah, with Craig as well. Spinotler and Jetfish are still fighting, and Spinotler.
I'm seeing stuff at the back of the field. There was contact with Andrew and Everett Bone. So Andrew spun. Brent is now back up to 8th. It's all switched round.
But yeah, Colin's going to take the win on track with no penalties. So penalties are really going to change things. Jetfish takes P2. Luke is going to take P5. Sebastian takes P4.
And Brent puts himself up to 5th by having no penalties.
Yeah.
And Andrew up to 7th, even with that spin on the last lap. If he hadn't spun, he could have maybe potentially been in 4th there.
Yeah, wow. So, I mean, penalties being a massive factor in this race. But yeah, I think definitely a difficult race for the drivers, but were handled pretty well. And again, someone who opted for the hard, Boris, like we saw in Logie, is driver of the day, who finished in P8 from P18, so he made up 10 positions today.
Yeah, and a
really
great drive
from
him.
him.
Kept it clean and took advantage of those safety cars really well. Got his strategy banged on.
Yeah. So do you want to invite the guys, podium guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think Colin will join. I don't think he normally joins, but we can give it over anyway. So yeah, that was quite a race. We had a lot of drama there, a lot of spins, but yeah, Canada being a very difficult track. So we've got Colin in P1 for Ferrari, again showing how fast he is. Jetfish in P2, Spinotler in P3, Sebastian just missing out on the podium. Then we've got Brent and Luke in the Ferrari, Andrew making up a lot of positions from penalties. Then Boris, driver of the day, all the way from P18. F1, who's in P9 after being in P last for so many times and having like 6 stops, so he's done really well. Then Sprunky, Banter Brandon, Craig, Lucist, Richard, Captain Meisel, and then these are the DNFs, so we've got Higgsy, Dennis, Deck, and unfortunately Becker.
Yeah, and just wait to see if these guys join. Yeah, really good race to watch. It was very exciting. A lot of safety cars. I was surprised with the early incident with Bakker that there wasn't a safety car for that one, but just a virtual one. But it made it really interesting on strategy.
Yeah, definitely. That was a very interesting race of penalties and strategy. Indeed. And Colin, again, taking P1, so it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult for people to match him. He's mighty quick.
Yeah, and Yeah, a lot of speed on the various sets of tyres now. We just seem to just get them warmed up so quickly and just be able to leave them even after the early race in the jet fish. It doesn't look like anyone's joining at the moment, I don't think.
It looks like anyone's going to join.
I don't think anyone's going to join.
No, okay, so I think
For me it was a really enjoyable race. We had a great time watching it, and there'll be more high gear racing next week as well as low and mid gear in Bahrain, I do believe.
yep, definitely.
Anything for you to add there, Shaf?
Oh, well, thanks for being on the co-coms today, and yeah, it was a very, very enjoyable race, and yeah, as you said, there will be the next race in Bahrain will be mid gear. It'll be low gear, should I say, on Tuesday, mid gear on Wednesday, and high gear on Thursday. So we will see you then. Have a great night.